One of the things that I think is really important for Lamb of God is that it is a church that is aware of the fact that this is the 21st century. And while we're always a little behind, like everybody else is, we've made some very important steps. For example, the old church at Lamb of God, which is 12 years old, is called the Arbor, and it was built to look like a pretty traditional church, but yet very flexible. Everything can be moved. All the furniture can be moved. We can use it for community events and classes and other activities. Then when the new church, the Vineyard, was built, a much larger hall, it was built as a completely open space so that it could be easily adapted for community events and concerts, and now for a 200-child preschool, which is there 5 days a week, and then we turn it around to use it for worship and gatherings on Sunday morning. The next step in the 21st century seems to be to make sure that we articulate the faith to those people who come to neither of these places. So, for example, when we feed 6,700 people on Thanksgiving, what we're doing is saying we really care about the rest of the world. When we sponsor outside groups to come here for community events or for educational events, or for example, the Institute for Evolving Spirituality, which had its first home here at Lamb of God, what we're saying to people is that in the 21st century, we want to articulate what's important to us to people in a way that they can have it readily accessible to them, whether or not they're used to a traditional church or a traditional worship space.
We host several community events here at Lamb of God. One of the largest is Ooey Gooey Trunk or Treat Night at Halloween. At this event, we attract several thousand children from our surrounding community. Members of the church, as well as our youth group and preschool families, volunteer their time and monies to help make this event a success. We also have an Easter celebration, and our preschool families have really been involved and instrumental in that event. Sometimes we have 10,000 or more eggs, and our preschool moms single-handedly stuff these eggs for us, so we couldn't do it without them.
For Ooey Gooey Night and Extravaganza, they're both community events, and it's awesome to see the community come together, and just to be a part of that is great to see how we are pretty much like the glue that brings the community together for both events.
Yeah, you don't really realize how many kids are around here until we bring one of those on. I mean, they're everywhere all of a sudden. So, but it is a lot of fun to see, you know, all the kids get excited about dressing up for Ooey Gooey for Halloween or coming in for the Easter egg hunts at Extravaganza. It's just great just to see everyone come together and just be that happy.
Lamb of God not only has many ministries that they lead and drive, like feeding the 5,000, but there's all sorts of ministries that we participate in. And the great thing about the church is, even though we're participating, we act like they're our mission and do everything we can to make them go right. Interfaith caregivers, once a month, we donate food, bring it over to their food pantry. They run their annual fundraiser through our Vineyard building, and we prepare the meals, help them prepare the meals, we help them set up, we help them do so many other things to make that a success. Another way that Interfaith is connected to Lamb of God is through our thrift store. Our thrift store does great work in people who work many, many hours trying to bringing goods that are being donated and selling them to people who need them at prices that they can afford. And then the profits from the thrift store half go to Lamb of God, and the rest the board decides on charities that can really need the funds. And this is one of the places where we dramatically support the interfaith charities. Same thing with Good Shepherd, which is a ministry up in Fort Myers, helps people get off the street, helps them with religious and ministry work. They feed them twice a week on Tuesdays and Sundays, and many of the people in the church prepare a meal for 30 or 50 people on those days. So we're a big part of helping them drive that ministry, and once again, we act like it's our ministry.
My name is Trent Brown. I'm the music director at Lamb of God. I've been the music director here for a year and a half. We had about 50 children in elementary school and several more in middle school and high school participate in a week-long music camp doing a musical called Jonah. We even had the pastor play the part of the whale. There were children that are part of our usual Lamb of God team that participated in the event. but also children that do not come to Lamb of God, that go to other churches or that don't go to church at all, that spent the week here with us in this activity, and it lets people know the sorts of things that are done in this church for the community.
The Guadalupe Center is out in Immokalee, and Lamb of God, once a month, gets a group of people, and they drive out and they help with the soup kitchen out there. The Mission of Hope is a group from Lamb of God that goes on a mission trip to Nicaragua. We have an alternate Christmas program here at Lamb of God that we buy water filters and we distribute those water filters to the people in Nicaragua.
My other responsibility, besides being the music director at Lamb of God, is that I'm an assistant professor of music in the Bauer School of Music at Florida Gulf Coast University, just across the interstate. And this provides, I think, these experiences provide Lamb of God with some unique opportunities. One, of course, is the relationships that we can create between our two institutions. Student performers, whether they be instrumentalists or vocalists, that can participate in the music events here. The student body at large that participates in our youth program, that participates in our youth musicals as camp counselors, as the Lamb of God campus being the host site for the wind ensemble concerts at Lamb of God from FGCU. Those have created some great relationships.
Okay, I've been doing this church business for a long time, and so I've been to a lot of Thanksgiving services, and they have a characteristic which is very similar. Usually very few people come to church on Thanksgiving, and they sing badly that hymn about "Come ye thankful people come," which makes no sense in Florida because it isn't harvest time and we're not about to have winter storms. This year I was at Lamb of God, and for the first time in my ministry there was no boring service with bad hymns. Instead, there was just a simple grace said over 700 volunteers preparing food all week long to be delivered to 6,700 people in 3 counties. So I have to think, would I rather be in a church where not much happens on Thanksgiving Day and the music is bad, or would I rather be in a church that has no church service but is serving God's people with 6,700 meals? That's one of the exciting things about Lamb.
My name's Tom Mullins, and I've been attending Lamb of God Church for about 14 years. Feeding the 5,000 is a Thanksgiving ministry in which, through the help of volunteers and donations from the community, we cook, package, and distribute meals to needy people on Thanksgiving Day. I have been told that the experience can be anything from chaotic to amazing, and that was from the same person. People come here, they sign up online to volunteer. Some people see a news piece or a newspaper article and just show up, and they come in and say, "Hey, I can do anything, what do you need done?" And we fit them in wherever we need to, and they walk out of here with one of the biggest smiles on their face ever.
I think feeding the 5,000 because we feed over 5,000 people, and it really touches them during Thanksgiving and makes us feel happy that we've helped out a lot.
Same thing, especially when you go on the actual trips and get to meet the people who you're giving the food to. It's really nice to know you're helping them.
We've been involved with Feeding the 5,000 over the last several years, and it's probably one of the best experiences we have. Over the last 5 years, we've provided over 30,000 meals to people in need at Thanksgiving. And the wonderful part about it is not only providing the meals for the people who need them, but the volunteers who get involved and how much they care and what a great time they have doing it. Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, youth groups, as well as all sorts of individuals. It started at Lamb of God, and it was a Lamb of God project in the early days. But today, last year we did 6,700 meals, and we had over 700 volunteers. Most of the money raised came from outside the Lamb of God, and most of the volunteers came from outside the Lamb of God. So instead of it being a Lamb of God project, it became a project that Lamb of God was leading, but it really was a community project, and it really was more special being a community project where people of all faiths and all different religions cared about the good that they could do at Thanksgiving.